Little girl is shunned by friends because of a rumor, but the truth that follows is even more terrifying.
Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
The sound that rang out across Santa Tessa's schoolyard was more like a death knell than a recess bell. Students poured out like a swarm of bees escaping a broken hive, chaotic, noisy, and hurried. In the middle of that crowd, a tiny girl stood still like a stone caught in a raging current. Lucy. Her long, gray, tattered dress brushed against her ankles, making her look even more out of place. It wasn't part of the official school uniform, nor was it in line with any trend or fashion. It looked like something plucked from a long-dead era. The thick fabric, high collar, and tightly buttoned cuffs resembled the kind of boarding school attire worn generations ago. The ash-gray color made her pale skin look even more washed out under the bright morning sun of New Hampshire. "Hey, look over there. It's the creepy dress girl," a voice yelled from behind. It was David from Class 6B. He pointed at her, his tone sharp and mocking, meant to draw everyone's attention. "That dress, have you seen it? The one the burnt girl wore." Lucy heard Mary Jo whisper to her group of friends, covering her mouth as they giggled. Lucy lowered her head and walked faster, trying not to hear, but the whispers seemed to chase her with every step. "She's nuts. Her parents burned to death and she still wears that thing. You believe the rumors? Anyone who touches that dress gets cursed. I heard it's haunted." A hand slapped Lucy hard on the back. She flinched and turned. It was Alexander, her classmate, smirking. "Did you wash that thing, ghost girl?" Lucy didn't answer. She just stared, not with hatred, just with coldness. Alexander tilted his head. "What's wrong with her? Is she mute or something?" "Oh right, ghosts don't talk." Laughter erupted behind him, followed by the sudden splat of spit landing right next to Lucy's foot. She took a step back, silent, her lips pressed tightly together, her eyes red. A teacher walked by, Mr. Julian, the math teacher. Lucy looked at him like a drowning child spotting a lifeline in a sea of cruelty. She spoke weakly. "Sir. Mr. Julian didn't stop. He didn't even look at her. He walked past with an icy expression. Behind him, Alexander laughed louder. "See that? Even the teacher doesn't want to look at you. Who told you it was okay to wear that thing here?" The bell rang, signaling the end of break. The students filed out, leaving Lucy standing alone, her eyes trailing the crowd like she was drifting into some other, lonelier world. In Class 6A, where Lucy sat, her desk was in the far back corner, near the window. No one sat next to her. Both desks on either side of hers were always empty, like a no-go zone. Carved into her desk, the words, "Die already," still lingered in pencil gouges, despite her many attempts to erase them. The homeroom teacher, Ms. Eliza Newton, walked in holding a folder. Without looking up, she said, "Lucy Owens, where's your geometry test?" Lucy hurriedly opened her bag, pulling out her paper, but before she could hand it in, Ms. Newton snapped. "You're late. That's an automatic point deduction. Next time you're late, don't even bother taking the test." "But I brought it." Lucy's voice trembled as she held the paper out. "Mr. Julian already warned you. If you don't follow deadlines, you suffer the consequences." The teacher marked something in her gradebook without looking at Lucy even once. The classroom was silent, but whispers started to rise like an unseen fire. "She probably didn't even do it. She's dumb anyway. She doesn't have any friends. Who's gonna help her study?" Lucy sat down, still holding her test paper that hadn't been accepted. Her small shoulders trembled, but she didn't cry. Her red eyes stayed locked on the board ahead, as if every whispered word was tearing away what little pride she had left. That afternoon during recess, Lucy sat on a stone bench beneath a large tree near the library. She liked this spot. No one came here, and at least the old tree didn't lie or judge. She was eating a stale sandwich from that morning when she heard footsteps. A blonde girl wearing glasses appeared. It was Tessa, the only one who had smiled at Lucy on the first day of school. "Lucy, can I sit here with you?" Lucy looked up, eyes wary. But she nodded. Tessa sat down, silent for a few seconds, then said, "I think what they say is really mean." Lucy didn't respond. Tessa looked at the dress. "That dress, it gives me chills, but I don't believe those stories." Lucy pressed her lips together. "It belonged to my grandma. Someone special." Tessa nodded. But then a voice behind them broke the moment. "Oh wow, look! The school's new couple, Tessa and the ghost girl." David and a group of friends ran up, laughing loudly. Tessa quickly stood, her face pale. "I'm sorry. I have to go." She turned away, not looking back. Lucy watched her leave, still holding the uneaten sandwich. She sat alone again, as sunlight retreated from the tree, leaving her under a heavy, creeping shadow. At the end of the day, as the dismissal bell rang, Lucy walked slowly down the long hallway, past peeling walls and the musty smell of the old school. She passed by the principal's office, its door slightly ajar. Inside, a man's voice, cold and sharp, could be heard. "That dress, no way." Lucy stopped. There was something about the voice that made her chest tighten. "People say it belonged to that girl from years ago. Irene Morgan." A woman's voice whispered, strained. "Shut up," the man barked. "Don't bring that up again. I don't want to hear another word about it. If we have to, we'll get rid of her." Lucy froze. She recognized the voice of Principal Sanders. She turned and walked away, her heart pounding. But still, she didn't cry. She didn't rage. She didn't scream. She just kept walking quietly. The evening sky turned purple, stretching long shadows from the walls down to the cold cement floor, where every one of Lucy's steps landed like a growing wound. Tuesday morning. The sky was overcast, light rain falling like even the heavens were repulsed by this place. Lucy entered the classroom wearing an old coat over her grim gray dress. Her worn-out canvas shoes were soaked from the puddle at the school gate. She placed her lunchbox on her desk. It was a faded red plastic container, holding a few slices of bread and a cold fried egg. Her grandma had made it at 5 a.m., with a small note taped to the lid, "Eat up to stay warm. Grandma loves you." Lucy gave a faint smile and turned to get her notebook. Minutes later, when the lunch bell rang and she opened her box, a foul stench hit her face. "Ugh!" she gasped. Inside the lunchbox, the eggs and bread were smashed, mixed with long, tangled human hair and buzzing live flies crawling through the oily mess of ketchup. A crumpled, grease-stained note floated on top. Lucy trembled as she picked it up. Messy black marker scrawled across it. "You demon. Eat up, finish your meal from hell." Laughter exploded behind her. "Hey, your lunch looks tasty, Lucy," Alexander shouted. The whole class erupted. "Probably Irene's hair. Bet the ghost's hungry." Mary Jo gagged dramatically, pinching her nose. Lucy clutched the lunchbox, frozen in place. Flies began to crawl out and drop onto the floor. That day's lunch monitor, Mr. Thomas Reynolds, entered the room after hearing the commotion. He frowned at Lucy. "What is going on here? Why all the noise?" Lucy timidly raised the box, her voice barely audible. "Sir, someone did this." But Mr. Reynolds cut her off before she could finish. "Bringing something like that to class violates food safety policy. Are you trying to get everyone sick?" Lucy's eyes widened. "Sir, it wasn't me, someone." "Enough," he snapped, slamming his book on the desk. "Take it home. If this happens again, I'm calling your guardian." The class burst into uncontrollable laughter. Alexander whistled. Sir, I think we should get masks if we have to sit near this freak. Yeah. That smell is messing with my mental health. Carla added, still laughing. Lucy ran out with her lunchbox, tears finally spilling down her face. But before she could escape the doorway, she tripped over someone's foot. She hit the floor hard, the box flying open, hair and flies landing on the desks nearby. Students shrieked. The ghost's hair touched me. Flies. Real flies. Hey, get a pic. Quick. Phones were whipped out. Click. 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 A boy named Paul turned to his friend. What caption should I use? Grey ghosts hell lunch. Lucy scrambled up. Her hands were smeared with egg and hair, but her eyes were empty. She bolted from the classroom without looking back. In the hallway, Tessa happened to be passing by. She froze when she saw Lucy running out, sleeves smeared with food, tears streaming. Lucy, what hap? Don't. Lucy whispered, not turning around. Don't say anything. Tessa wanted to follow, but her friends shouted from down the hall. Tessa! Come eat already, stop hanging out with the ghost. She bit her lip, then hesitated and turned away. That afternoon, in the teacher's lounge, Ms. Eliza Newton walked in looking exhausted, phone in hand. She had just received a photo from a student, an image of Lucy sitting beside a lunchbox full of hair and flies. Oh my God! Ms. Newton sighed. Mr. Reynolds, sipping his coffee, looked up. What is it? It's that Owens girl. Someone stuffed disgusting things into her lunchbox and the whole class laughed at her. I think. Don't worry about it, Reynolds interrupted. That girl's been disturbing the class atmosphere for a while now. Best thing would be for her to take a few days off. Or transfer. Ms. Newton frowned. But it's obvious someone set her up. Newton. His tone turned cold. You're new here, so you don't understand. Some kids are just born not meant to belong. You can't cure evil. The room fell silent. Another teacher, Mrs. Laura Harris, spoke softly. I heard that dress of hers is from that old fire, the last one that still exists. Reynolds let out a dry laugh. And she wears it like a statement. Like she wants to remind everyone of what this whole school's been trying to forget. At the same time, down the hallway, Lucy was crouched inside the girls' bathroom. The stall door was locked. Her hand clenched the now crumpled curse note. In the dark space, the dripping of a leaky pipe echoed over and over. She whispered. Why me? What did I do wrong? A voice echoed in her head, because you're what's left of a buried secret. That afternoon, an emergency class meeting was held under the supervision of the ethics teacher, Mr. Richard. A tall, bald man with a deep, stern voice. But today, he only sat and listened. Lucy was called to the front. You're Lucy Owens? Mr. Richard asked. Why yes, her voice trembled. Do you know why you were invited to speak today? Lucy looked down at her feet. Because, the lunchbox. A student filmed it and it's now spreading online. Do you have anything you want to say to the class? She remained silent. Then she looked up. I didn't do anything wrong. Alexander whispered from his seat. The ghost girl can talk. Mr. Richard furrowed his brow. Silence. Lucy continued, her voice faltering. I know everyone hates me. But I'm not a monster. Carla sneered. Then why do you keep wearing that dress? Lucy turned to her. My grandma used to say, what's forgotten always finds its own way back. The class went quiet for a few seconds. Then David burst out laughing. Wow. So what are you now? A ghost telling fairy tales? Mr. Richard slammed his hand on the desk. Enough. The room froze. We will investigate. But from now on, anyone spreading superstitious rumors will be dealt with seriously, he said, scanning the room. After school, Lucy walked down the hallway. She ran into Principal Sanders returning from the assembly hall. He looked her over from head to toe, eyes sharp and icy. You again. You've turned this school into a damn joke. Lucy bit her lip. I didn't mean to. Sanders leaned in close, his voice low and venomous. Girls like you don't belong at Santa Tessa. You're a stain. Lucy stood still, clutching the hem of her dress. She didn't cry. The morning bell echoed through the grim halls of Santa Tessa. It was Wednesday. The sky was still gray, the clouds heavy, as if waiting to unload more rain on a place already soaked in hatred and prejudice. Lucy walked into class, her face no longer showing surprise or confusion at the stares slicing through every wrinkle of her dress. She had learned not to feel, or at least to pretend she didn't. But today felt different. The class didn't just look at her with disgust. There was fear now. A strange, uneasy caution, like they were looking at something dangerous. Alexander was the first to speak, his smile crooked. Hey, did you guys hear the news? Mary Jo leaned over and whispered like she was telling a ghost story. My sister's in 9th grade, and her friend Clara broke her leg yesterday, just because she touched Lucy's shoulder. It's true. Carla jumped in. Lucy was going down the stairs, Clara was behind her, tapped her shoulder, and a few hours later crack. Her leg twisted like crazy. The whispers spread like waves. Paul scratched his head. But that sounds like an accident, how could? It wasn't random. David said in a serious tone. I heard an old teacher say that dress came from the 2005 fire. It belonged to a student who burned alive. Her spirit never left. Lucy sat still. Her ears turned red, her eyes lowered. But she said nothing. Then, as if fate wanted more fuel on the fire, something bigger happened that morning. The biology teacher, Mr. Matthew Garrison, suddenly collapsed mid-lecture. Oh my God! Ms. Newton rushed in as students crowded around. What happened? Someone call the nurse. Hurry, he's not waking up. Lucy sat in the back, her eyes wide in shock. Then Mary Jo shrieked. Wait! Yesterday Mr. Garrison cleaned off Lucy's desk for her. The class turned toward her. The air turned ice cold. From the front row, Tessa whispered. That can't be, he just wanted to help her. Help? Helping her is asking for trouble. Carla said. Lucy stood up, voice breaking. You, what are you saying? I didn't do anything. David yelled. It's you. You're a bad omen. Everyone who touches you ends up hurt. Yeah. Alexander added. That dress isn't normal. You're carrying a curse. Lucy backed into a desk. The students moved closer, as if trying to trap her against the wall. Just then, Principal Sanders walked in with a medical team carrying Mr. Garrison out. He scanned the room and his eyes locked on Lucy. What's going on here? David quickly spoke up. Sir, I'm not sure, but I think Lucy. I think she's involved. Involved? Sanders raised an eyebrow. Do you have any proof? No, but, before Mr. Garrison fainted, he sat at Lucy's desk, and she said her dress was taken from the 2005 fire site. A tense silence followed. Sanders' brow furrowed deeply. He stared at Lucy. Bring that dress to my office after class. Lucy could only nod. Recess passed under a cloud of fear. Rumors spread across the schoolyard like wildfire. Behind the library, a group of 7th graders huddled around a phone. Watch this, said a boy named Jason, playing a video of Clara falling. I don't know, man. Clara's never broken a bone before. And guess what? Jason whispered. The last person to touch Clara was Lucy. I heard an old teacher used to sprinkle holy water and salt around Lucy's desk. What? For real? Yeah. Mrs. Melissa, the old craft teacher. She said Lucy's dark energy spread like spilled ink. After school, Lucy brought the dress to the principal's office. She held it gently in her arms, like it might break. Sanders sat behind his desk, tapping the wood with his fingers. Put it on the table. Lucy obeyed. He looked at the dress, then muttered. This is a standard boarding uniform model STX 2005. Where did you get it? Lucy replied softly. My grandmother kept it. It belonged to someone she knew. Who? His tone turned sharp. I don't know exactly, someone named Irene. Sanders froze. His grip on the chair tightened. Irene Morgan. Lucy nodded. A long, suffocating silence followed. Then Sanders let out a dry laugh. How very interesting. He stood up, circled the desk, and approached her. His voice dropped. You know, back in 2005, something terrible happened here. But some things are better left buried. Lucy looked up. But if you bury the truth, it stays underground forever. Like the people no one talks about. Sanders snarled. Shut your mouth. I don't need a lecture from a filthy little girl like you. He suddenly snatched the dress from her arms and tossed it to the floor. Get out of my office. Now. Lucy bent down and picked it up. Her hands shook, but her eyes didn't blink. The air felt heavy, like ash. As soon as she left, Sanders made a call. Hello, get the hall supervisor. From now on, Lucy Owens is to have her bag searched every morning. And she's not allowed to sit at any desk for more than 30 minutes. I don't want another incident. That night, in a small house on the outskirts of town, Lucy's grandmother, Anna Morgan, was knitting when her granddaughter walked in. Seeing her red, swollen eyes, she stopped immediately. Lucy, what happened? Lucy placed the dress on the table, her voice trembling. They said I'm cursed, because I wear Irene's dress. Grandma Anna said nothing. Her wrinkled hand gently stroked the fabric. My dear. She whispered. This dress isn't a curse. It's a reminder of those who burned in silence. Lucy buried her face in her grandmother's shoulder and, for the first time, cried. Santa Tessa was eerily quiet the next morning. The sky was gray, the fog thick, as if the school had just woken from a nightmare. But the real nightmare was still walking its halls in polished leather shoes, a neatly pressed dark suit, and eyes full of buried sins. Principal Samuel Sanders. In his office, he sat behind his desk, flipping through a thick file titled Boarding Records, Academic Year 2004 to 2005. On the yellowed edge of the paper were faint fingerprints, and inside, several names had been crossed out in red ink. Sanders pulled a cigar from his drawer and lit it. Smoke curled into the air beneath the pale yellow light. He closed his eyes, as if drifting back to a distant memory. You were all supposed to burn with that fire. He whispered. The door burst open. Vice Principal Caroline Turner entered, holding a stack of request forms. Principal, we've received a petition from parents of Class 6A, about Lucy Owens. Sanders looked up, frowning. Another one? They're demanding her expulsion for negatively affecting other students' mental well-being. There's also a video attached, from yesterday's class. She placed the documents on his desk. He let out a dry, bitter laugh. They're so easy to manipulate. But, don't you think we should look into it more seriously? That girl, she might just be a victim. Sanders slammed his hand on the desk. A victim? Caroline, you do well to remember this, that fire was buried. 6 dead was enough. I won't let a second Irene stir up public outrage again. Caroline froze. Irene. Irene Morgan. But Lucy's grandmother is Irene's twin sister, isn't she? Sanders shot up, marched around the desk, and stopped inches from her. You'd better shut your mouth unless you want to be transferred to some rural preschool. Caroline held her breath, nodded, and left the room. Sanders sat back down, his eyes bloodshot. He pulled a small metal box from a drawer. Inside, a soot-stained, old key lay nestled. Storage A4. He gripped the key tightly, eyes fixed on it like he was staring into a mirror from 20 years ago. October 2005. Sanders had just been appointed principal. The boarding facility was still in use, primarily for students who were poor, orphaned, or came from difficult backgrounds. Among them was 15-year-old Irene Morgan, the quiet leader of 6 boarding students. She had once publicly challenged Sanders during a parent meeting over suspicious school financial records. "Sir, why don't the boarding students have heaters when the budget clearly lists them every quarter?" Sanders replied coldly. "You have no right to ask that. But I have the right to know. This concerns students' welfare." Sanders slammed the table. "If you can't respect your teachers, you don't deserve to be here." 3 weeks later, the fire happened. The dormitory was locked from the outside at 1 a.m. 6 children died, including Irene. The police ruled it an unforeseen electrical accident. But an internal report hidden by Sanders clearly stated, external lock showed signs of manual fastening. Fire originated in the fuel storage room for the generator. Sanders wrapped the document in oiled paper and hid it in storage A4, which was sealed indefinitely afterward. That afternoon in the teacher's lounge, Ms. Eliza Newton spoke up. "I think this situation has gone too far. We can't treat a student like she's some kind of abnormal object." Mr. Reynolds shrugged. "That girl is a curse. She's haunting the entire school. We are adults. Teachers. Are we really believing in curses?" From the end of the table, Sanders growled each word. "Enough. I don't want to hear another word about that girl. Anyone who mentions her again will be considered disruptive to school order." He stood abruptly and slammed both hands on the table. "That dress should be burned. Just like the rebels from back then." Everyone sat in stunned silence. The air in the room felt like it had been sucked out. A young teacher named Erica whispered to Ms. Newton as they left. "He knows something. I'm sure of it. No one reacts that violently over a piece of clothing." That night, Lucy sat in her room, staring at the dress hanging in front of her bed. Her hand rested on her diary. Friday the 13th. Grandma said this dress belonged to someone good. But why does everyone look at me like I'm a monster? If the person who wore this was burned alive, will I turn to ash with them too? Grandma Anna walked in with a cup of warm milk. "My little one, writing something?" Lucy quickly shut the notebook and shook her head. "Grandma, who was Irene?" Anna sat down with a sigh. "Irene was my twin sister. I didn't tell you earlier because I was afraid you'd get dragged into an old nightmare." Lucy stared. "She died in the 2005 fire." Anna nodded, her eyes red. Irene stood up to Principal Sanders. She was brave, refused to be silent in the face of injustice. But that's what got her killed. Lucy trembled. "So, this dress was the last thing she wore?" Anna didn't answer, just held her granddaughter tightly. Lucy whispered. "I won't stay silent. I don't want to burn in silence like they did." Monday morning's assembly began with a long list being read out in the schoolyard, where students stood in neat rows under the glaring sun. Mr. Reynolds read aloud in his dry, flat tone. Monthly commendations: David Ford, highest GPA in Class 6A. Carla Gordon, notable improvement in language arts. Alexander Lawson, outstanding in athletics. Each name was met with reflexive clapping. But Lucy's eyes were locked on the stage on the space where her name had once appeared, only to be quietly removed earlier this month. Lucy had good grades. Above average in nearly every subject. But today, her name was never mentioned. Tessa, standing nearby, whispered. "You used to get awards, that's really weird." Lucy didn't reply. She only tightened her fists slightly, her eyes blank. Then Reynolds cleared his throat. In addition, the school would like to inform that student Lucy Owens, Class 6A, due to repeated dress code violations, superstitious remarks, and disruptions to the school community, will be suspended from all extracurricular activities until further notice. Murmurs spread like a virus. There she goes again. She's not just cursed now, she's being quarantined. Like some kind of infectious disease. Lucy stood frozen in line, her face burning like she'd just been slapped in front of the whole school. Tessa turned to say something, but Lucy had already turned away, her eyes glassy with tears. In the teacher's lounge, Ms. Eliza Newton stormed over to the principal's desk, her voice choked. "Principal Sanders, I can't agree with this decision." Sanders set down his coffee without looking up. "What decision exactly?" "Lucy is a high-performing student. She hasn't done anything wrong. Suspending her from school activities is—" Sanders cut her off. "Ms. Newton, this isn't your Ethics 101 classroom. This is a disciplined institution." "But—" "Enough." Sanders slammed his hand on the desk. "Because of teachers like you, people like Irene Morgan thought they could defy the system." Newton stared at him in shock. "So, you admit what happened in 2005? Sanders walked slowly to the window, his voice as cold as the wind outside. "I admit nothing. I only know this: those who cause disorder must be removed. Whether it was Irene back then, or Lucy now." Wednesday afternoon. Class 6A was rehearsing for the upcoming school anniversary celebration. "Lucy, step aside," said Mrs. Isabel Reed, the art coordinator, pointing firmly. Lucy froze. "But I've been rehearsing all week. I know the lines. Your name is no longer on the cast list. This comes from the Board of Administration." David whistled. "Who'd let a ghost star in a children's play anyway?" The group burst out laughing. Lucy stood motionless. Tessa glanced over, about to speak, but the look on Mrs. Reed's face silenced her. Lucy sat alone in the schoolyard. The wind whipped at her gray dress, folding its creases like reopening old wounds. Friday. In front of the entire school, the weekly disciplinary list was read aloud. Mr. Reynolds' voice rang out. "Students in violation of school policy this week: Lucy Owens, for inappropriate attire, failure to participate in group activities, and class misconduct." Lucy stood in the yard, gripping her dress tightly. Sanders sat in the front row of the administrative section, eyes locked on her. He smiled crookedly as Lucy lowered her head, shoulders trembling. That afternoon, Anna arrived at the school. Her silver hair tied neatly, her worn purple dress spotless, she stood at the front gate as if preparing for battle. Polite but firm, she told the receptionist. "I'd like to speak with Principal Sanders. I'm the guardian of Lucy Owens." After a moment, she was led inside. Sanders sat with legs crossed behind his desk, eyes narrowing at the elderly woman who entered. "Mrs. Morgan. I remember you." Anna walked straight to the point. "You're pushing my granddaughter into the same pit you pushed my sister into 20 years ago." Sanders stood, clasping his hands behind his back. "Lucy is choosing that path herself." "How?" "By wearing an old dress. By refusing to bow down to bullying. Don't teach me how to run a school, Mrs. Anna. I'm not teaching. I'm warning you," her voice sharpened like a blade. "You think you buried everything? But fire never dies if there's still an ember under the ashes." Sanders slammed the desk. Get out of my office. And take your cursed child with you. My granddaughter is staying. What's really coming back is the truth. Anna turned and walked out. That night, Lucy sat by the window, staring at the damp yard. Her grandma's voice called from the kitchen. I visited him today. Lucy turned around, eyes wide. What did you say to him? Not much. Just enough for him to know we're not staying quiet anymore. Lucy lowered her gaze. They hate me. The whole school does. Anna placed a hand on her shoulder. You have a right to exist. Just like Irene once did. Lucy nodded softly, eyes red. Next Monday morning. When Lucy entered class, she saw her personal bulletin board had been taken down. Her drawings were gone. Her seat had been moved near the drafty classroom door. On the desk was a handwritten note. This spot is for those who don't belong. Lucy looked around. No one met her eyes. Not even Tessa. She sat down, opened her notebook, and began copying notes. Her handwriting shook, but it was steady. Wednesday afternoon. The sky hung heavy, wind howling through the long halls of the old school building, rattling the window panes like they were trembling with fear. Santa Tessa was preparing for its anniversary celebration the following week. The entire academic wing buzzed with assignments for decorations, stage setup, and storage cleanup. Outside the classroom, Ms. Isabel Reed started dividing up the class of 6A. Alexander, David, Jason head up to the art room and get the poster boards. Tessa, Carla helped clean out the library shelves. And this group. Ms. Isabel Reed glanced at the list in her hand. Lucy, Paul, and Christina, you'll be in charge of clearing out storage room A4. Lucy looked up, surprised. Miss. I thought storage A4 has been locked for years. Isabel frowned. Mr. Sanders just handed over the key. We're opening it today to check on old supplies. Paul groaned. Why us though? Christina muttered. Probably because we've got a good luck charm with us. That way, the ghosts won't get us. Paul gave a nervous chuckle but glanced at Lucy with unease. Storage A4 was located behind the old basketball court abandoned for over a decade. Its rusted metal door bore a faded sign, authorized personnel only. Lucy inserted the key, turned it, and with a loud clack, the lock opened. A thick, musty smell immediately poured out, the scent of old ashes, rotting wood, and rusted metal. Paul covered his nose. This place really doesn't feel safe for students. Christina stepped in, nudging a shattered wooden crate. It's just dust and cobwebs. Even the ghosts probably gave up on this place. Lucy walked in slowly, eyes scanning the warped metal racks. Suddenly, she stopped. At the very back, on a row of rusted hooks, hung dozens of gray dresses all identical to the one she was wearing. She whispered. There. STX 2005 uniforms. Paul approached, brushing his fingers against the fabric. They're exactly like yours. Christina stared up, her voice quiet. Must be the old boarding uniforms. But why are they all still here? Lucy murmured. Because the girls who wore them are gone. Behind a crumbling cardboard box, Paul spotted a small metal chest. The lock was rusted, but he managed to pry it open with some effort. Careful, let me try. He twisted the hinge and lifted the lid. Inside was a stack of documents wrapped in oiled paper, thick with dust and the faint smell of burning. Faded text on the cover read. Internal administration only. Christina pulled out a file and opened the first page. October 15, 2005 Dormitory Incident Report. 6 students perished in a fire overnight. Last person to secure the door, Samuel Sanders. Paul went pale. What? Mr. Sanders, he was the last one to lock the door. Lucy whispered, almost breathless. He knew. He buried this all these years. Christina flipped further. There's a list of names. Irene Morgan, 9th grade student, previously reported financial misconduct. Lucy dropped to the floor, eyes wide, hands clutching the folder tightly. Paul spoke up. We have to show this to someone. The press. The police. Anyone. Christina looked worried. But what if they don't believe us? It's a private school, everything could be swept under the rug. Lucy stood. I know someone who'll believe us. That afternoon, in the teacher's lounge, Sanders scowled as he held the event prep schedule. Who authorized that girl to go into A4? Who gave her access? Ms. Isabel Reed trembled. You handed me the key, sir. Sanders slammed the table. Idiot. What if she found something? A staff member knocked on the door. Sir. Lucy Owens is in the nurse's office. She fainted. Fainted? Sanders smirked. Or maybe she's just plotting her next act. In the nurse's office, Lucy sat clutching the document folder. Tessa appeared at the doorway, hesitating. Lucy looked up. What are you doing here? Tessa mumbled. I heard you fainted. I was worried. Lucy stared at her. Why didn't you say anything the other day? When they humiliated me in front of the whole school. Tessa lowered her head. I was scared. Yeah. Everyone's scared. Lucy gave a bitter smile. But some truths don't require courage, they just need to be told. She held out the folder. This is proof. Sanders covered up Irene's death. And others too. Tessa stared at it. Are you sure we should do this? For the first time, Lucy's eyes lit up. If we don't, who will? That evening, Paul and Christina showed up at Lucy's house. Grandma Anna opened the door, worry in her eyes. You kids are out late. We brought the photos from A4. I took pictures of everything, Paul said, holding up his phone. Christina nodded. And digital copies of the internal report. In case anything happens, at least we have backups. Anna gripped their hands. My granddaughter is no longer alone. Lucy came out, holding her gray dress tightly. We'll tell the whole world, she said softly. Those burned into silence will have a voice. Monday morning. The sky was once again ash-gray, as if still coated with the soot of an old fire. In the dusty old library, the students quietly gathered around a copy of the 2004 to 2005 yearbook Christina had found in a locked drawer. I found it in the last cabinet, she whispered. Someone tried to hide it. They stopped at the photo of Class 9B. In the back row stood a girl with long hair, sharp eyes, and a gray dress identical to Lucy's. Below the photo, Irene Morgan STX 2005. Paul shivered. She looks just like Lucy. Tessa whispered. It's not just the resemblance. That's the same dress. Christina turned the page. There it was, a list of the 6 boarding students who died in the 2005 fire. Irene's name was 4th. We need to give this to someone, Paul repeated, clenching his fist. We can't let him keep getting away with this. Lucy sat quietly, hands on her lap, eyes fixed on Irene's face in the photo. She looks like a person. Not a ghost. Not a curse. Christina nodded. Because she was a person. A murdered one. And forgotten. Tessa trembled. But if we take action, Sanders will know. He might do something to us. Lucy said softly. And if we stay silent, there might be 6 more. That afternoon, Sanders received word that the students had entered the library outside school hours. They went where? He barked, tightening his grip on the phone. The library. The old archives section, replied Vice Principal Caroline, her voice cautious. Sanders leapt up. "They've found it." The next morning, a cold notice was posted on the school bulletin board. Effective November 3rd, student Lucy Owens is suspended indefinitely for causing disruption, spreading superstition, and damaging the reputation of the school. Lucy saw the paper as she arrived. Tessa ran up. "Lucy, don't. I'll go talk to Ms. Newton. There's no way this is." "Has anyone spoken up yet?" Lucy asked, her voice hollow. Christina bit her lip. "We took the pictures. We have the proof. But no one's dared to post them." Paul spoke low. "The school blocked all Wi-Fi. Phones are banned after class. They're controlling everything." Lucy looked across the schoolyard, where students were still laughing, chatting, pretending nothing had happened. But as she walked, every eye turned away, every step moved aside like she was a shadow. That afternoon, Sanders summoned Lucy to his office. "Sit down," he ordered, flipping open a folder. Lucy didn't sit. She stood straight, clutching Irene's dress to her chest. Sanders growled. "So you really think you're the heir to those old rebels?" Lucy stayed silent. "You raided storage, snuck into the library, dug up things that should have burned with the past. Who do you think you are?" "I'm someone you can't kill," Lucy replied, eyes locked on his. Sanders stormed over, yanked the dress from her arms, and threw it to the floor. "You're filth wrapped in skin. I'll erase you from this school from memory itself." Lucy bent down, picked up the dress. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "You can expel me. But I won't be silent." Sanders froze for a moment, then roared. "Get out." Lucy walked down the long hallway like in a dream. On the walls, new school activity photos had been posted, none with her face. The ones that had included her were removed. Every trace of Lucy Owens was being erased. She passed by Class 6A. Tessa wanted to run out and hug her, but Carla grabbed her arm. "Are you crazy? You want to get expelled too?" Tessa shook her off, but Lucy had already walked past without looking back. David whispered. "The living ghost finally got kicked out." Paul watched silently, tense. Christina clenched her fists. No one laughed. But no one cried. The schoolyard felt like a vast, empty graveyard. Lucy walked across the cold tiles where she had once been shamed, once mocked, once jeered by hundreds. But today, no one laughed. No one clapped. They turned away, avoiding her eyes like she really was a ghost. Lucy stopped at the school gate and looked back one last time. She didn't cry. She just held Irene's dress tight and walked away. That night, in the little house at the end of the street, Grandma Anna held her granddaughter close. "They can't take your light away," she said, her voice trembling. Lucy leaned into her shoulder. "But I'm cold. Like all the fire in the world has gone out." Her grandmother held her tighter. "No. Because you are the last ember. And fire can rise again from ashes." 3 days after Lucy was expelled, a thick brown envelope was placed on the desk of Clara Vaughn, the renowned investigative journalist and host of the national TV show, Silence Kills. No return address. No note. Only one line typed in bold capital letters, "Don't let them stay silent again." Clara carefully opened it. Inside was a bundle of documents wrapped in oiled paper, a photo of the STX 2005 dress, and a picture of Irene Morgan with the caption, "Died in the fire." Door was locked. Last to secure it, Samuel Sanders. Clara frowned, flipping to the internal report with a signature at the bottom. Her assistant Matthew gasped. "Do you see it? That name Sanders. It's him." Clara nodded, her hand trembling slightly. "We've got a bombshell, Matthew. We need to verify this. Call former staff from Santa Tessa." Start with the one named Newton. The next morning, loud knocking startled Grandma Anna. She opened the door to find Clara Vaughn standing there with the envelope in hand, flanked by 2 cameramen and an assistant. "Good morning, ma'am. I'm Clara Vaughn from PBS News. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Irene Morgan and your granddaughter Lucy Owens." Anna paused, then stepped aside. "Come in. I've been waiting for this day a long time." At Santa Tessa, Sanders was in a faculty meeting when his phone rang. The screen read, "PBS News, interview request." He declined the call. But Vice Principal Caroline whispered, "You should watch last night's broadcast." That evening at 8 p.m., the program Silence Kills opened with a haunting image of flames rising in darkness. Clara Vaughn's solemn voice narrated. October 2005. A horrific fire at Santa Tessa's boarding house killed 6 students. The case was quickly closed, blamed on faulty wiring. But 20 years later, we've received internal documents never before made public. The screen showed the report, signed by Samuel Sanders, last to secure the door. Next was an interview with Anna, her voice trembling. "Irene never slept with the door locked from the outside. I know she was my sister. And I believe, someone wanted those kids to disappear." Sanders slammed the remote on the table. "Those bastards, they aired it." He called his lawyer immediately. "Shut that channel down. Sue them for defamation." On the other end, the lawyer's voice was shaky. "Sanders, this is serious. Police have contacted us. Someone from the old staff confirmed the allegations." "Impossible. You fix this for me." "No one can fix the past, Sanders." The line went dead. At home, Lucy watched the broadcast, the light from the screen casting shadows across her face. She held Irene's dress in her arms, hands shaking as the show reached its final moments. Clara concluded. The Santa Tessa case has officially been reopened by the district court. Current principal Samuel Sanders has been suspended and summoned as a suspect. She looked into the camera, speaking slowly. And in the fire of long ago, there were screams no one ever heard. Now, it's time we listen to them. The next morning, the entire nation was shaken. From Salem to Savannah, from media outlets to social platforms, everyone was talking about one name, Lucy Owens, the girl expelled for wearing the dress of the dead. Hashtag "The Grey Dress Will Not Be Silent" began trending nationwide. At Santa Tessa, the atmosphere was stunned. A group of students gathered around the latest bulletin board. Jason whispered. "He's really suspended." Carla shivered. "So? Lucy was telling the truth all along." Paul spoke up. "Not just telling the truth. She endured worse than any of us can imagine." David bowed his head, silent. Christina murmured. "We were wrong, so wrong." That same day, at the district police station, Sanders sat in the interrogation room. In front of him were 2 investigators and a stack of files as thick as bricks. One asked, "Care to deny anything when this is your signature right here?" Sanders clenched his jaw. I followed protocol. I didn't mean to." "Then how do you explain sealing the case? Or expelling Lucy Owens the moment the documents came to light?" Sanders began to sweat. "That girl, she wanted to ruin me." The investigator snapped. "No. You ruined 6 children. And almost added one more." That evening, Clara received a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" A soft girl's voice replied. "It's Lucy. Can you help me say something, on TV?" Clara smiled. "What do you want to say?" "I just want to say. Irene never disappeared. Anne. I never cursed anyone. I just wanted them to live again, not as ashes, but as memory." Clara paused, moved. You'll say it. The whole country will hear you. 1 week after the investigation aired, the California Department of Education released an official statement. We hereby restore the full honor of student Lucy Owens. The department will present her with the Medal of Courage for Truth. In addition, we are working with law enforcement to reopen the case of the 2005 fire at Santa Tessa. That day, the doorbell rang at Anna's house. Lucy opened the door to find a well-dressed woman holding a golden envelope. I'm Julia Reynolds, from the Department of Education. Are you Lucy Owens? Lucy nodded cautiously. You are invited to return to Santa Tessa School as an honorary witness. This is the department's official letter. Anna stepped out, holding her granddaughter's hand. Should we go? Lucy clutched the envelope. Her eyes lit up. I think it's time. That day, Santa Tessa was wrapped in a strange hush. Students in uniform lined both sides of the main courtyard. The new administration, former teachers, media, and local officials were present. Paul, Christina, Tessa, and Jason sat in the front row. Tessa whispered. She's really walking back into the place that dragged her to the bottom. Christina answered, her eyes misty. But this time, she walks in as a survivor. Not a victim. The loudspeaker rang out. Please welcome student Lucy Owens to the Hall of Honor. All eyes turned to the gate. A white car pulled up. The door opened. Lucy stepped out wearing a pristine white dress, her hair neatly tied, black shoes polished. But in her arms, she still held the gray STX 2005 dress, now a symbol no one could deny. No one said a word. But slowly, one student stood. Then another. David, the one who once spat at Lucy, stood first, tears in his eyes. Then Carla. Then Jason. Then the entire student body of Santa Tessa. Lucy walked slowly through the aisle, not with the proud stride of a victor, but with the quiet steps of someone carrying the voices of the silenced. On the main stage, the Secretary of Education presented her with a large certificate and a silver medal engraved with a flame. On behalf of the government, I apologize to you, Lucy Owens. For what was denied. What was hidden. What was forgotten. Lucy took the microphone and drew a deep breath. The entire courtyard held its breath. She spoke. I am not a child of demons. I do not carry a curse. The gray dress I wore is not haunted by spirits. It carries the memory of those who once lived. She raised the dress, her voice shaking but clear. Irene Morgan was my grandmother's sister. She once spoke out against injustice. She was burned in the night. And ever since, no one dared to speak her name. Her eyes welled up. We, the children who were ignored, who were called monsters, who were forbidden to speak, we just want to be heard. She bowed her head. And then, the whole school stood and applauded. No one was told. No one whispered. Just applause, honest, continuous, echoing like a bell calling lost souls back to life. Anna cried. Tessa cried. Paul wiped his eyes. Christina buried her face and sobbed. Lucy smiled. For the first time in the entire story, her lips curled into a genuine smile, no fear, no shame, no hatred. That same day, a memorial ceremony was held at the corner of the yard where the old dormitory once stood. A stone plaque was erected, engraved with the names of the 6 lost students, and the words, "We were once burned in silence. Today, we are named." Lucy placed a bouquet of white flowers at the base of the monument. She whispered, "Irene, you're seen now." That night, on national news, Clara Vaughn appeared, reading the closing lines of the documentary. Not every death is forgotten. Not every fire only destroys, some fires light the way. At the city detention center, Sanders sat behind bars, eyes hollow. The TV in the corner played footage of the memorial. The anchor's voice said, And in the end, the girl once called a demon became the one who made an entire country listen. Sanders growled, staring at the screen. You think you've won? This is all just theater. His cellmate glanced at him with contempt. You locked people in fire. Now it's your turn to be locked in. Sanders dropped his head to the table silent, for the first time. At Anna's house, the evening was warm with candlelight and soft laughter. Tessa, Paul, and Christina visited, bringing cake and juice. Tessa whispered. Lucy, do you know? When you spoke today, it wasn't just for the 6 who died, it was for us too. Paul nodded. We stayed silent too long. You did what adults wouldn't dare. Christina placed her hand on the gray dress. This dress isn't haunted anymore. It's the dress of truth now. Lucy looked at each of them and smiled. No one should be burned for speaking the truth. Truth can be buried, distorted, or ignored, but it never disappears. Courage isn't always in the loudest scream, but in choosing not to stay silent when everyone else turns away. Lucy, though just a young girl, proved that one voice alone can ignite an entire society blind to injustice. When we listen to the voiceless, we don't just save them, we save our own conscience.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.